Bart Robertson.
I'm Sam Robbins.
I'm Glavin Swain.
And I'm Arya Shoa, and we're doing our group project on Tesla's expansion internationally. The automobile industry is one of the most universal industries in the entire world. There are over 1.5 billion cars in the entire world, and that encompasses all 7 continents, including Antarctica. But they've heavily been criticized in the past for a lack of innovation. Updates come for cars almost every year, and they're largely just aesthetics or minor new features, and occasionally a new safety feature or two. Automobiles have largely been one definition: a gas-powered, mechanically operated vehicle. Electric vehicles from companies such as Tesla started to shake things up. Now, although Tesla and modern electric vehicle companies have had a large impact on today's field of electric vehicles, they're not entirely a new concept. Actually, the first electric vehicle was introduced in the 1830s, which is, believe it or not, before the first combustion engine. Now, in the modern era, there have been several electric vehicles that have seen some success prior to Tesla, those being the Toyota Prius, which was of course a hybrid vehicle, and the GM EV1, which was a vehicle in the 1990s that got a lot of hype around it, but never actually ended up getting much beyond just a tiny bit of production. And it was a very exciting vehicle, but it wasn't really practical because at the time it was only 60 to 80 miles of range. Now, Tesla, on the other hand, decided to disrupt the market, and they've seen lots of success ever since. So a little bit about the history of Tesla. They were originally founded in 2003, and the founders of Tesla were actually inspired by the GM EV1. Elon Musk joined Tesla in 2004 with an investment of $30 million. For a few years, the company developed their first vehicle, the Tesla Roadster, and it was a very exciting vehicle, which had an immensely high range for an electric vehicle, 244 miles, which was unheard of at the time. It was a sports car, so unfortunately at the time, the pricing of it did kind of discourage some consumers because it was well over $100,000. Charging is also a factor because it would take 24 to 48 hours to fully charge the vehicle. The next vehicle on Tesla's docket was the Model S, which is their luxury sedan. It was a lot more affordable than the Roadster, seeing a value in the 70,000s, and it had a 300-mile range, which was very, very nice for an electric vehicle. At the time, many people decided to purchase it, and Tesla sought to alleviate one of the concerns many consumers had, which was chargers, and decided to install chargers for free use of any Tesla owner in California. They saw that this was a really great feature that lots of consumers valued, so they expanded it across the entire country over the coming years. One of Tesla's competitive advantages that really sets them apart is their own battery production. They are one of the few companies in the entire world that produces their own batteries for their vehicles. So that enables them to really spend as much money as they please on research and development of their batteries, and they can really hone in and focus in on what they need to make their batteries more efficient and more encompassing in terms of weight and capacity to fit their needs going forward. Another huge advantage for Tesla was their autonomy. They were able to invest into the AI and automation world with their Tesla Autopilot system. The Autopilot system was state-of-the-art and really beyond anything else available at the time. It would allow users to use auto park, auto steering, and adaptive cruise control. Tesla has a relatively small selection of vehicles when compared to most other automobile manufacturers in the world. In fact, they only currently sell 4 vehicles, but each vehicle has a really intentional target market, and Tesla knows who they're targeting with each of these. Each Tesla also comes standard with Autopilot, and you can add full self-driving for a fee, which we'll talk more about that later on. Each Tesla also has a tablet on the front dashboard that controls every feature of the vehicle, ranging from things such as GPS navigation to things like even opening the glove box. Another huge plus of Tesla's is the access to the supercharging network that we mentioned earlier. There are over 25,000 superchargers in the entire world that any Tesla owner can use for a fee to charge their vehicle in very fast time. As mentioned earlier, Tesla's huge strength is their supercharger network, which is 25,000 and growing. It allows for charging in as little as 15 minutes, compared to most other EV chargers significantly faster. It has massive coverage in the US, and international coverage has started in the past few years, but will be growing exponentially in the years to come. And another strength of Tesla, of course, is their autonomy. Autopilot now comes standard with every single Tesla, which is, again, far ahead of all the other competition, which allows for adaptive cruise control and just overall many safety features that are not offered anywhere else. Full self-driving can be added for $10,000, which is quite a steep price and is actually growing every few months. At this time, it's more just a promise for the future. Anyone who buys the feature will be signed on to get the full self-driving package when it is available. According to Elon Musk, that should be sometime within the next year, but he said that in the past, so that is to be seen. Currently, though, with the full self-driving package, you can do things such as navigate on autopilot, where the car will drive for you on highways, as long as your hands are on the wheel. Tesla's first move into the international territory was with their Gigafactory in Shanghai, China. They were able to build it very quickly, in actually less than a year, and they are now at an output level which is higher than their Fremont, California factory here in the US. So this was their first initial proof that they could expand internationally, and Gigafactory Berlin is their next move in Germany. Production has not begun yet in that factory, and they anticipate it will begin in late 2021. And once it is done, it will be their primary flagship point for exporting to Europe. Now, based on their current strategy and their current international strategy, we will now talk about our proposed strategy for Tesla going forward. The problem with Tesla right now is their overwhelming bandwidth. Gigafactory Shanghai is considered their export hub for the entire world. When anywhere except for the US wants to buy a Tesla, it is exported likely from Shanghai. For this reason, they are producing many cars and exporting them all across the world in very inefficient paths sometimes. Now, when the Gigafactory Berlin is completed, that will serve the European region, and of course the US factories, which there's one in Fremont, California, and there will be one in Austin, Texas, will serve the US internally. Shanghai will continue to export across the world, so a new factory is really needed to keep up with demand. Oceania is currently a really strong market for Tesla. In Australia, for example, Tesla sold twice as many vehicles as all the other electric vehicle competitors combined in 2020. In New Zealand, Tesla is seeing, quote, overwhelming demand for all of their vehicles. Beyond just the demand for Tesla vehicles, New Zealand and Australia, which are two of the largest countries in Oceania, have a really, really high vehicle per capita rate. New Zealand being number 7 in the world at 740 vehicles per 1,000 people, and Australia being number 2, right behind the United States, at 880 vehicles per 1,000 people. For these reasons, Oceania is a really pivotal location for Tesla to expand to. Creating a factory in this region will not only help them sell vehicles in the region of Oceania, including Australia and New Zealand, but will also allow the rest of the Tesla bandwidth to be alleviated and allow for more exports global.
So when looking at Tesla's entry into a big market such as Oceania, it's important to analyze some external factors that could possibly affect Tesla's success in this new market. These external factors we researched are the political and legal environment of Oceania, the social and cultural differences between the countries that make up Oceania and America, and the economic environment there. So businesses, they value stability and predictability of government policy when assessing whether or not they should enter that country for business. So all of the countries in Oceania have a legal system that is based on common law. These countries were predominantly colonized by European nations in their early history and have now adapted most of their government practices, like having a parliament or a prime minister. We found that Australia, New Zealand, and French Polynesia have the least amount of political risk. Australia and New Zealand are both considered to be constitutional monarchies, and French Polynesia is a territory of France but has their own constitutions. So these countries, they have strong and stable governments, so internal political risks such as corruption or potential social unrest do not really need to be a concern of Tesla. There's also little international risk in these countries, such as military invasion or insecure borders. But there is some political risk when it comes to Papua New Guinea and the other small Pacific island countries. So this risk comes from a group of nationals in Papua New Guinea who have been in conflict with some of their neighbors, the Indonesian armed forces. This has kind of leaked over into Papua New Guinea's border and made parts of that border unsafe and unstable. The crime rate is also high in Papua New Guinea and has been a serious deterrent to foreign investment in the country. So this social unrest is a major internal political risk. When looking at culture differences, we found that Australia and New Zealand are very, very similar to the US, but they do have a few differences. These similarities include these countries all predominantly speak English. Australia and the US are both large land masses. All three of these countries have a native population that was then settled by a European nation. They emphasize hard work and are results oriented. They tend to be a little bit materialistic, but are also very open to new ideas and are more risky when it comes to doing business. Some of the differences are that Australians tend to have a lower power distance when compared to Americans in their work culture. They tend to decide with a consensus, while Americans are used to one person kind of making the decisions. Australians can also be more loyal to their work team instead of their actual company. It's like that because there's a big emphasis on collaboration there. Australians and New Zealanders love to use slang and abbreviations. So these are sometimes in their native language, so it can be hard for a foreigner to maybe understand what they might be saying. It is also important to note the trend of sustainability that is also growing in Australia and New Zealand. This really benefits Tesla's entry into this market because of their all-electric vehicles and other resource-saving products like their solar roof. So Australia has the most developed economy and the largest amount of manufacturing out of all the countries in Oceania. They are the 12th largest economy in the world based on GDP. 79% of their labor force works in the service industry. And Australia's large manufacturing industry comes from their producing of cars, producing electrical equipment, machinery, and clothes. And New Zealand also has a very highly developed economy, and it is one of the most globalized, which means it relies heavily on international trade. Also, a majority of New Zealand's workforce works in the manufacturing industry, which is attractive to Tesla as labor should not be a concern. The economies of the smaller Pacific island countries are much less developed. Most of them rely on trade with Australia and New Zealand, so most of their economy is made up of tourism and other services, while the other part is mainly made up of agriculture. Overall, Australia and New Zealand's economies could easily support and give success to Tesla's entry.
Tesla, to successfully enter the oceanic market, they'll want to look at several firms across different industries to form strategic alliances with. This will hopefully help create a competitive advantage in this marketplace through helping them achieve their goals faster and assisting at different points along the value chain. Tesla is known for having a very strong tourism industry. Being an island nation, tourists are often looking for transportation, aside from their cars at home, to be able to drive around the country. Car rental companies in Australia, such as Avis and Thrifty, have some electric vehicles in their fleet, but there's room for more. Partnering with one or both of these companies could help both increase Tesla's sales, as well as boost the number of electric vehicles in these companies' fleets. Additionally, by offering consumer trade promotions, companies could boost the sale of their total car sales in their fleet, as well as spread the Tesla name to locals as they see more being driven around their country. This could also help boost demand for supercharging stations and help set that infrastructure in place so that more locals will consider buying Tesla. In addition to the more traditional car rental services, there's a new ride-sharing service that is unlike Uber or Lyft, which we typically think of when we hear the word ride-sharing. While Uber and Lyft are more like a taxi service, EV acts more like a car rental service. Locals that own Teslas or any other electric vehicle will be able to put their car on their EV website or app, and any visiting tourist will be able to rent their car and drive it as if they'd rented it from a rental service like Avis or Thrifty. The advantages of this is that they are more targeted towards electric vehicles and are actually a big promoter of Tesla already. This is a screenshot of what you see whenever you go onto EV's website. In the first two panes, you can see that Teslas are being heavily marketed and promoted as both a owner of a Tesla who's looking to make some extra cash, or as a tourist who's looking to drive one on an adventurous vacation. With the high cost to import raw materials and increasingly high labor costs, all major automotive manufacturing operations have left this continent, starting with Mitsubishi in 2008, followed by Ford in 2013, and General Motors and Toyota in 2017. Tesla, being a very highly automated manufacturing process in their gigafactories, could turn to governments and use their highly environmentally friendly nature of their cars as a reason for earning government subsidies that could help bring jobs back to these countries that have been left by the void of these other major manufacturers. Tesla is going to be producing and selling cars among these island nations. It'll be important for them to partner with a distribution partner that will be able to remain consistent through turbulent times. Trans-Pacific and Pacific shipping lanes have been disrupted both by US and China with their deteriorating trade relations, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, putting strains on all trade globally. Companies such as CMA, CGM, Wanhai, and Zim were all able to show consistency through this period through the ownership of their own logistics strategies. Tesla will want a distribution partner like them that has been proven to be reliable through this period that can bring them both raw materials for their manufacturing efforts, as well as move products between islands and out of the country.
Next, we will discuss a variety of different challenges that Tesla could face as it moves into the region of Oceania. One example of an ethical challenge that may not be an issue in Australia compared to other locations abroad is workers' rights. Australia is a very advanced country in terms of workers' rights and prioritization of their workers. As of July 1st, 2021, the national minimum wage in Australia was $20.33. Compared to the United States, this is higher than any state, and it is a big strength of Australia in terms of livable wages for its employees. The Fair Work Commission of Australia reviews national minimum wages every single year in July, so there's a constant update to workers' rights in the promotion of workers. Compared to many other potential countries for entry abroad, Australia is a major opportunity for Tesla to not have a loss of reputation for low wages for their workers. A lot of locations such as China, Taiwan, any other areas in Southeast Asia will have much lower wages for workers, and factories that have unlivable wages are an issue and reputation for countries. With Australia, this will not be an issue for Tesla. However, one thing that could become a challenge with Tesla with regards to ethical issues is bribery and corruption. According to a survey conducted by Ernst & Young in 2017, Australians said the economic slowdown coupled with pressure to meet bottom lines has taken a toll on ethical business conduct. In addition, 27% of Australians shared that bribery was very common in their industry as a way of winning contracts. Since that time in 2017, economic conditions have only gotten even more uncertain with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's reasonable to believe that this bribery and corrupt business practices could only have gotten worse in Australia. As a result, Tesla will need to make sure that they're training their workers and having a strong integrity program with their expansion to Australia to make sure that their business is not running with bribery and other issues as they try to secure contracts in their growth. The next variety of challenges that Tesla could face in Oceania are related to negotiations. In general, within Oceania and Australia in particular, decision-making is very slow, and this is a stark controversy to Elon Musk in the Tesla style. Musk is well known for his fast-moving, spontaneous decision-making, and this doesn't exactly go well with the slow and thoughtful decision-making in Australia. Also, as mentioned before, bribery and corruption could be big issues with negotiation, and Tesla will need to make sure that their hiring process is strong in order that they know that their workers aren't using bribery and corruption to secure contracts as they're trying to grow profitably. The next and possibly greatest challenge that Tesla could face with an Australian entry is leadership and management challenges. In general, Australian workers and their business culture favors a leader that shows high levels of performance without being too obnoxious or too charismatic. Australians also have strong issues with leaders that have the attitude of "I am the best and I know the most." Elon Musk is very famous as a leader that is notorious for his charismatic and oftentimes obnoxious personality. A lot of this is what has brought in value to Tesla and gotten their name out there, but this may not necessarily go very well with the Australian culture. Musk is also known at times for being an autocratic leader, and as we learned in lecture, this means that he doesn't really consult with others in management and leadership as he makes decisions, and is more of a his kind of highway, or his way or the highway. Also, he's known as a transactional leader sometimes, and this means that he has a focus on rewards or punishments for meeting the bottom line, and this doesn't really go with Australian culture either. Australian workers in general place high importance on trust and the development of meaningful relationships. They have a really high regard for loyalty for their mates, and this doesn't exactly go with the more impersonal and informal autocratic and transactional leadership styles. Much like Musk, it's probably likely that the Tesla management has similar styles because his personality is a pretty good representation of how the company operates, and this could be an issue with leadership as they try to move into Australia. However, one good thing that is something for the two to bond on is that Australian workers are world-renowned for their hard-working nature, and this is a big personality trait of Tesla as a company in general. Tesla is very rapidly growing and innovative, and this could pair very well with the hardworking nature of Australians for something for them to grow on and move forward with.
So to close things out, the expansion into the Oceania is definitely a challenging endeavor for Tesla and for any company really going into the region. But as we've stated, the benefits definitely outweigh the costs here. The new factory will definitely pay off, and it allows for future growth of the company, and alleviates a lot of the pressure from the China Gigafactory Shanghai factory, which is currently the export hub for the entire world, and which is where likely a lot of the Australian and New Zealand and other oceanic Teslas are being imported from. Therefore, if we were to open the factory in Oceania, the Shanghai factory would have a lot of the weight taken off of it, and it could focus growth in new areas that were previously untapped. Tesla's future will continue to be innovation and disruption in every field that they touch, and opening this factory in Oceania will give Tesla lots of room to scale and grow to unbelievably large sizes.